Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, good morning everyone. So today we are going to learn about chapter 7, cellular respiration. Okay, so when we are talking about cellular respiration, so you have to understand that this process of cellular respiration is a process purposely to break down sugar in the presence of oxygen. Okay, so meaning to say makanan yang kita makan akan dipecahkan kepada tenaga, okay, in the presence of oxygen to form ATP. And also carbon dioxide. Alright, so kita guna oksigen untuk bakar glukos dan dia akan tukarkan kepada tenaga dan juga carbon dioxide yang kita exhale, yang kita hembus keluar. Alright, so that is cellular respiration. Okay. Alright, so before we learn about chapter 7, cellular respiration, so first thing first, you need to know the LO about structure and metabolism of ATP. What is ATP and how ATP is breakdown, okay, and how ATP is synthesized. Okay, ATP molecule. So ATP stand for adenosine triphosphate. The word tri over here is referring to the fact that ATP ni having 3 molecules of phosphate, inorganic phosphate, triphosphate. Okay, right. So it is ATP is nucleotide that have unstable phosphate bond, which can be hydrolyzed, yang boleh dipecahkan for energy to drive endergonic reaction. Maknanya phosphate group yang attach kepada ATP boleh dipecahkan, boleh ikatan itu boleh dipecahkan so that the energy what we call it, release from there can be used in endergonic reaction. Okay, now let's see the shape of ATP. So the ATP consists of adenine, ribose sugar. So ribose sugar is a pentose sugar, right? And also 3 chains of 3 phosphate group. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is the shape of ATP. So this is the ribose sugar. Ribose sugar, right? It's a pentose sugar. And this is adenine, right? And this is chain of 3 phosphate group. Okay, so this is what makes ATP known as adenosine triphosphate. Okay, right. So next is, you can see unstable bond between the phosphate group can be hydrolyzed in an exergonic reaction. So remember balik, what is exergonic reaction? Exergonic reaction is a reaction that will release energy. So as this reaction release energy, so what happened? The what I call it, the energy content between the reactant and the product will be different. Okay, so what happened is energy of product, since this reaction is release energy, so energy of product will be lower than the energy of reactant. Maksudnya energi bahan ataupun produk hasil tindak balas lebih tinggi dari lebih rendah daripada energi yang ada pada bahan yang bertindak balas. Okay. Now, what is happen when ATP is hydrolyzed? Okay. When ATP is hydrolyzed, molekul ATP dipecahkan, dia akan jadi ADP di. D means di. Maksudnya ada 2. Okay. Diphosphate. Nampak tak kat situ? Right, so ATP initially it has 3 phosphate, now it release 1 phosphate, now it become ADP. So this is the phosphate. Okay, phosphate group that has been released during this exergonic reaction. So tindak balas ini adalah tindak balas exergonic. Okay, which it release energy, right? Okay. Okay, so you can see over here, process hydrolysis of ATP. So when ATP is hydrolyzed, initially it has 3 inorganic phosphate group attached to it. So proses ni ialah hydrolysis. So remember, hydrolysis means proses yang melibatkan penambahan air. Right, so you can see penambahan air, it add water during the process. So ATP will be breakdown into ADP. Now you can see it has only 2 phosphate plus this is the inorganic phosphate. And the process release energy. Okay, all right. So the product is ADP plus inorganic phosphate. Okay. All right, when terminal phosphate bond is hydrolyzed, so apabila phosphate bond hujung ataupun phosphate group yang attached to the ATP is hydrolyzed, so a phosphate group will be removed and producing ADP. So this is what you can see, ATP plus air dengan kehadiran air, proses dia is hydrolysis, so it will form ADP and phosphate group. Okay, so this process, since this process is exergonic, meaning it release energy, you can see. So how much energy release for every 1 ATP hydrolyzed? Dia akan release sebanyak 31 kilojoule per mole of energy. And you can see here there is negative sign kat depan ni, nampak tak? This negative value bermaksud energy is released. Okay, so under lab condition, this reaction, maksudnya reaction untuk hydrolyze ATP into ADP and phosphate, release 31 kilojoule per mole of energy. But in the cell, dalam sel badan kita sendiri, it will release 55 kilojoule per mole, which is lagi banyak. 70%, 77% more than in the lab condition. So maksudnya kalau proses itu berlaku dalam sel kita, it will release more energy compared to when the process is inside the lab. Because inside the lab, we control everything. Okay, kita control temperature, kita control ni, kita control tu. So that's why the energy release is a little bit small. Okay, right. Okay, so. Okay, as terminal phosphate bond are unstable, so product of hydrolysis will be more stable than the reactant. So hasil daripada tindak balas pemecahan ATP tadi, so produk dia lebih stabil. The product is ADP. Okay, than the reactant lah. Okay, hydrolysis of phosphate bond is thus exergonic reaction, because remember the process of hydrolysis of ATP, which release phosphate, is a process of exergonic reaction. Okay, which shifted to a more stable state, which here it in the form of ADP, and this is the inorganic phosphate that is released. Okay. All right, so you can see here, biasanya proses exergonic will be coupled with endergonic reaction. Okay, contoh, ni ATP. ATP campur air, so ini adalah proses hydrolysis, which you are going to break down the water molecule. So you can see this process will release energy. Okay, so energy for cellular work, endergonic and energy consuming processes. So energy yang dilepaskan ni boleh digunakan untuk proses yang lain. Which proses yang memerlukan penyerapan tenaga, which is endergonic. So contohnya energy yang dilepaskan when ATP is hydrolyzed boleh digunakan semula in order to form ATP semula by joining ADP and phosphate. So maksudnya tindak balas ATP itu berbalik. ATP can be formed or break down into ADP plus phosphate, and at the same time, this is exergonic reaction. Okay, and at the same time, the energy released from the exergonic reaction hydrolysis of ATP can be used, okay, to form ATP semula via process of endergonic reaction, which it absorb energy. Okay, itu dia. Alright. Okay, how ATP perform work? Macam mana ATP buat kerja dia? Okay, the exergonic hydrolysis of ATP, like I said tadi, when ATP dipecahkan, so the process is exergonic. Exergonic hydrolysis of ATP is coupled. Biasanya dia bersama dengan endergonic process. So during endergonic process, phosphate group can be transferred to another molecule. Phosphate itu boleh dipindahkan kepada molekul yang lain. And the phosphate is transferred by enzymatically controlled. The transfer of phosphate kepada satu molekul lain itu dikawal oleh enzim. Alright. And molecule that receive phosphate, molekul yang menerima phosphate tersebut will be known as phosphorylated. Okay, maknanya contoh macam madam terima phosphate. So I am phosphorylated. Faham eh? So molecule that is receiving phosphate is known as phosphorylated. And it become more reactive. Okay. Okay, nanti kita akan tengok contoh. Apa maksud dia fosfat dihantar kepada satu molekul yang lain. Okay. Alright. Regeneration of ATP. So, seperti yang kita bincang tadi, ATP is continually regenerated by the cell. So, it is a rapid process whereby our cell can produce 10 to the power of 7, okay, 10 kuasa 7 molecule of ATP use and regenerate every second in every cell of us. And this reaction is endergonic. Kalau ATP boleh dipecahkan, jadi ADP plus phosphate. So ADP plus phosphate boleh ditambahkan dengan phosphate untuk jadi balik ATP. Macam ni. And this process is endergonic. Kenapa endergonic? Because it wants to form a molecule. So bila kita nak join molecule, ADP campur dengan phosphate, so proses tu perlukan serapan tenaga. So that we call as endergonic reaction. Okay, and you can see endergonic reaction, proses yang menyerap tenaga. You can see that's why the symbol will be given as positive. Okay, positive means the process is absorb energy. How much energy is absorbed during formation of 1 ATP? 31 kilojoule per mole of energy. Okay, so sama. So negative release energy tambah absorb energy. Okay, so energy to drive endergonic regeneration of ATP comes from the exergonic process of cellular respiration. Samalah, maksudnya proses untuk mendapatkan tenaga to form ATP datang daripada another exergonic process. Proses lain dalam badan kita in cellular respiration which release energy. Okay. Okay, so next LO is about the term substrate level phosphorylation and oxidative phosphorylation and then step in glycolysis. So kita nak pergi tengok proses glycolysis in our cell. Okay, right. And macam mana gula yang kita makan dipecahkan kepada tenaga. Okay, so itu kita akan discuss. Alright.